Folks, in 1987, there were 91 black-owned banks in America. Today, there are 24. Yes, just 24. Many of them are struggling to stay afloat in the face of the recession, competition for customers that they once dominated in. New York's Carver Federal Bank, the largest black financial institution in America, was also struggling to survive, but recently turned the corner. Here to talk about that, as well as the broader issue of blacks in banks, the president and CEO of Carver National, CEO Michael Pugh. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Pleasure to be here.
So you recently took over as CEO of the bank. What were you doing before that?
So before then, I spent some time at a couple of super regional banks. I was at Capital One for about 5 years and 14 and a half years with Citizens Financial Group during a stint throughout the Midwest.
So did friends of yours think you were absolutely nuts for leaving those institutions to go run a black bank?
I certainly had some questions about it. You know, it's not the normal trajectory that you might expect someone at this stage in their career to go and run a community bank, particularly a community bank the size of Carver relative to what you might expect to see from some of the super regional banks.
So why'd you do it?
I did it because of the mission of the financial institution, what it stands for, and the real need to have black talent that's there to help those financial institutions like Carver continue to grow. I knew it was a place I needed to be for that reason.
To hear there were 91 black-owned banks, today 24, is very reminiscent to me. We talk about the number of black-owned television stations, the number of black-owned radio stations, other black-owned businesses. And some people have sold, some have gone under. And so what are those conversations like with your fellow black bankers who are running these 24 institutions? What are they facing?
Yeah, I think for many of them, the biggest challenge that they're faced with is the need for more capital, and also and so when you talk about capital, obviously, it is the very thing that allows us to be able to lend in our communities, allows us to be able to thrive as financial institutions, and the need for more customers, to be able to attract customers.
So I got to ask you, so how does the bank get capital? Is that based upon deposits?
So deposits certainly add value. Investors that may choose to be with the bank as well. Those are a couple of the options that are available.
So is part of the difficulty that you have is that you're now operating a sense where you used to be the sole financial option. Now all of a sudden you're going to black communities, and now all of a sudden you're seeing Bank of America, you're seeing Citigroup, you're seeing JP Morgan Chase, you're now seeing a plethora of banking options.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. If you look at many of the neighborhoods and communities that we serve, these are areas that 15 or 20 years ago didn't have mainstream banking solutions that were available, didn't have financial institutions that were there on every street corner, and today they do. And so customers, particularly African Americans, Caribbean Americans, they have choices now. I also think that over the time, as we have become, there's some distance between the civil rights movement and the need for financial institutions to serve the black community. We have seen a change in terms of customers now having, particularly middle-income customers, having more options.
So where do you see the battle be in terms of, in order for these black banks to survive, what must they do to be around 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
I think there's a couple of things that are super important for us. One is the institutions have to find ways to attract more customers. We need the support of the black community and the minority community. As you know, many of
So how is that? What is that marketing campaign? What is that effort? I mean, how do you get them?
Yeah, I think it's through broader outreach. We live in a digital age today, frankly. And so for many of our community, being able to get the word out there and make sure that they understand that we are open for business and we want their business, we're prepared to serve them. So that's one thing. I also think that in a highly regulated environment, it's much more expensive to operate a bank than it was perhaps 20 years ago. So the real need to make sure that we're looking for ways to share expenses or reduce costs. Perhaps even some mergers and acquisitions wouldn't be unheard of when the time is appropriate.
And I got to ask you that. So first of all, for folks who don't know, so when you measure the size of a bank, is it based upon their deposits?
So deposits is one metric that's important. Asset size in total.
So what is the asset size of Carver?
So Carver is a little over $640 million in assets.
Gotcha. And so that puts you at the top of the black banks right there. And how many different branches do you have, folks? How many states are you operating in?
We have 10 full-service branches that are all in greater New York City, in that area.
And so are you looking at, we talk about mergers and acquisitions, are you looking at that and not just grabbing other black banks, but also it could be banks targeting Hispanics or even those that are general interest or white?
Absolutely. I think the ability to be able to look across the broad spectrum is important for us. So we'll certainly look at that when the time is right. Our focus today has been to engage our community and attract more customers. Being able to get to a solid state of core earnings and continue growing the bank is mission critical, because if you can do that, then it allows you to be in a much stronger position to look at mergers and acquisitions.
All right, Michael, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks so much and good luck with